Hey guys! So this is going to be your first introduction to arrays. And to start out, I want to differentiate very, very clearly between the worksheet and the array file. You'll hear these referred to as either a worksheet or an array file repeatedly, and there are pretty big differences, right? So here we have on the left the worksheet, and on the right the array file. If we start up here at the top, it's MT3, Advanced Math Paths, that's the name of this particular document. The identical document for the array file is MT3A, Advanced Math Paths, same name, and then it just says array file there at the end as well. And then we have very notable differences on the first page, right? So there's formatting differences. The title on the worksheet is bigger font, right? So it's a little bit more impactful. It's a thing that the students will see. So we will send them the document itself. We will actually save it as a PDF file before sending it to them. But they do have it because sometimes they will need to print it out. Sometimes they want to do their work on paper. Sometimes they print it to do it in a certain timed way. And so there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes out of the worksheet. And so the worksheet is just this primary document that the students will see. The students will never see the array file, and so you can clearly tell that the array file is a little bit messier looking. The array file is what the computer will see, and so it has a lot of stuff going on in there that's very computer related. So if we go back to here, we have our worksheet. This is the first question. So as n approaches infinity, find the limit of the following product. In this worksheet, we have, so this little box right here is words like text to math feature or math equation function. They basically create their own little text box. It comes in line and all that stuff. This thing does not work inside of the array file. So here we have the question. On the other side, we also are going to have the same question. So here we have as n approaches infinity, find the limit of the product. And then there's a picture. And we have a picture there because this product is a little bit too complicated to be able to put into plain text. For plain text, we use Unicode characters. Slack accepts Unicode characters, and so that's why we do that. But you can see that it is the same question, right? So if we were to click on that link, it would bring up a picture that looks identical to this stuff that's inside the text box there. And so then inside of the array, we also have an alert, which is our code for sort of the answer key. So we have the alert, and it includes the answer, and then it includes some additional information for instructors. A lot of this comes from me personally, and some of our other, more advanced instructors who have been here for a long time. And some of it will come from you guys. So some of these answers are fairly simple. A worksheet like this is probably going to be done by myself or maybe Terrence or somebody. But it's a little bit more advanced. As you excel, you'll do more things like this as well. But for right now, we're looking at just all sorts of information. Is there a responsive worksheet? There are several responsive worksheets, so we're going to make a note about that. And then what's the process, right? So here's the first step, here's the second step, here's the third step. What are we sort of getting at? And it all culminates in this final answer, which we make bold. Everything that's bold, we'll get to this later, but it's going to have, some sort of asterisks. So you can see that there's a lot of sort of formatting in here with these little asterisks, and there's a few other formatting things that come up later on. But, so, key differences so far. The worksheet only has a question. The array file has a question and an alert, and the alert can contain any information whatsoever that you want to send only to the instructor, and all of that is happening inside of Slack. If we go onwards, we can see that on the worksheet there's only one question per page. This is because sometimes if the student prints it out, they are going to want to do their work on this piece of paper, and we want to give them a lot of space because this question is pretty complicated, and they're going to want to have a lot of scratch paper. On the array file, the student will never see the array file, so this doesn't matter. They don't need any kind of space. And the chatbot that interprets this text also does not need any space at all. So we just, for clarity's sake, and so that we can read it the most easily, we put exactly 2 enters. So from here, 1, 2, to get down to the next line. From here, 1, 2, to get down to the next line. So everything's separated by exactly 2 spaces. In that way. And so on the worksheet, if we scroll down, right, we have one more question. This question again matches the next question here. So if log base a of 5 equals x and log base a of 7 equals y, log base a of the square root of 1.4 equals what? And we have exactly the identical question here. It is actually literally copied and pasted. Sometimes the plain text works out really well, and when it does, we're going to put it in both places, and it just looks really nice. These little tiny A's here actually are a little bit hard to see on this document, but they do come out a lot better on the Slack, which I'll show you guys in a second. And so then also, again, you have all the instructions, and then you have the alert here as well. So again, lots more information here. This one doesn't have any responsive worksheets, but that's okay. But the question information is identical. So if I bring up Slack, this is my, the channel just has my name in it, and we can test this, right? So this worksheet is MT3.1, and we can sort of compare. Let me drag this over here. We can compare that to what this looks like. So here it should say Advanced Math Paths in bold, MT3.1 Advanced Math Paths, and then it's going to have our original question as n approaches infinity, blah, blah, blah. Here's the picture. The MGR, right? It looks identical to the original worksheet question. And then this alert, it says only visible to you. This is only visible to me because I am an instructor. And it has all of that information as well, right? So all this information, and it's very nicely formatted. So it's got all the bold in there. It has all these enters, so you'll learn this later, but we've got this little backwards apostrophe here makes an enter. And we can see that happen here, right? So before second, oh look, we went, to the next line. Before third, next line. And all that stuff is there. So this is the way that it comes out looking in Slack because we specifically programmed it this way. The chatbot that we use processes all of this information, but it's going to be very, very specific. There's a lot of detail in sort of what we have to use. And then a lot of these sort of fancy symbols, right? The fancy square root symbol and all these Unicode things of that nature. And then the final thing that I want to mention in terms of the worksheet versus the array file, every single file should have both. So if you're doing an array file, you need to also do the worksheet, the corresponding worksheet. When you get these things, you will be sent a worksheet. The worksheet will basically have all of the information, which will probably need to be formatted. So it might need you to turn, an infinity symbol into a Unicode infinity symbol. Usually it's just most convenient to do this because then we can copy and paste back and forth, right? Like I said, this information is exactly a copy of this information, and that's just really convenient. Sometimes we can't do that, and so we have this sort of a thing set up. That's no big deal. But whenever we can, we're going to try to convert it over. So you'll have this worksheet, and we can see here every single file in here. So this is MT3, we have the document, and then we have a PDF file. And then we have the array file, right? And then MT4 3D Pythagorean, we have the document, we have a PDF of the exact same document, and then we have the array file. Document, array file, document, array file. So we're always going to have a Word, a PDF version of the document, and then the array file separately. So whenever you send something back to me, it should have both. There should be two things like MT3, MT3A, MT4, MT4A, or S1 and S1A. Whatever letters, whatever numbers it is, it's going to be the same. And that's all for this one. We're going to do a couple of practice questions on this, and then we'll move on to the next topic.